just to use.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I want to thank Mr. Hastings for authoring this important measure on the dog and cat meat trade. It's an important issue to animal lovers around this globe, and this resolution has garnered tremendous bipartisan support. He has over 100 co-sponsors in this Congress for it. And protecting the world's animals, whether we're talking about dogs and cats or rhinoceros and elephant, it's not a partisan issue. And I'm proud to have authored a number of critical pieces of legislation to advance this cause, including the End Wildlife Trafficking Act of 2016. Mr. Speaker, in recent years, we have made some important progress towards stopping the consumption of dog meat around the world, but sadly, dog meat markets still exist in Asia. In fact, it's estimated that 30 million dogs and 10 million cats die annually across Asia as a result of the dog and cat meat trade. And they often live under horrendous conditions. And this practice, I would make one other point. It also raises serious public health concerns. The World Health Organization has linked the dog meat industry to human outbreaks of multiple serious diseases, including cholera and including rabies. The spread of disease is made worse by all aspects of the trade, from the unsanitary conditions of slaughter and the sale of dog meat in open-air markets and restaurants. And from that to the trafficking of these animals across international borders. This important resolution urges all nations to abolish the dog and cat meat trade, to enforce existing laws against such trade, and to affirm the U.S. commitment to protecting animals both here at home and around the world. And I urge my colleagues to join me in support of this measure.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from New York.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I, too, rise in support of this measure, and I yield myself as much time as I may consume.
Gentleman is recognized for as much time as he wishes to use.
Let me first of all thank my friend from Florida, Mr. Hastings, for his work on this resolution, and thank Chairman Royce for moving it forward. This is one of those issues that certainly stirs the emotions of anyone who learns about it. The horrible abuse of dogs and cats, crammed into cages, driven across borders, slaughtered and sold in meat markets, it just seems so cruel and needless. The animal rights community has come together around this issue, pleading for an end to these inhumane practices, particularly in the markets in Asia where this takes place the most. There are broader concerns as well. The trade of dog and cat meat is associated with health risks, including the spread of disease. And an illegal market for this meat has sprung up in places where governments have failed to step in and enforce their own laws against these practices. So I think it's important that the House go on record saying we oppose this practice. I'm glad to support this measure, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from California.
I'll continue to reserve.
Reserves. Gentleman from New York.
I now yield 3 minutes to the esteemed gentleman from Florida, Mr. Hastings.
I thank the ranking member.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Speaker. And I thank the gentleman for yielding, and I thank my good friend, the chairman of this committee, for bringing this forward. I rise in support of this measure, urging all nations to outlaw the inhumane dog and cat meat trade and to enforce existing laws against this barbaric practice. In June of 2017, I introduced this measure with my distinguished colleague and co-chairman of the Florida delegation, Congressman Vern Buchanan. It is estimated that tens of millions of dogs and cats are killed for human consumption annually across the globe. This display of animal cruelty is not only inhumane, but also a threat to public health for citizens and international visitors. This resolution affirms the United States' commitment to the protection of animals and advances the animal protection movement rapidly growing worldwide. These innocent animals, often personal pets, are forcibly taken, shoved into cages with broken bones, then shipped along distances without food or water to meat markets where they are regularly bludgeoned, mutilated, boiled, or skinned while still alive. When I was a child, I had 3 big dogs, True Boy, August, and Tuesday. And in their memory, I'm sure that they would be equally proud that their owner was standing up for descendants of theirs and others. By passing HRES 401, Congress can bring the world one step closer to hopefully ending this cruel practice once and for all. Mr. Speaker, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank the thousands of activists across the country and around the globe for their tireless efforts. They have never wavered in their commitment in the fight against the global dog and cat meat trade. It is my sincere hope that we expeditiously pass this measure. By doing so, we will send a strong message that no matter where you live, animal cruelty is simply wrong. A special thanks to Lisa Vanderpump and Ken Todd and Dr. John Sessa, and all of them being my friends, and certainly Mark Ching, who has personally witnessed many of the things in Yulin and elsewhere that brought my attention to this measure. Mr. Speaker, I urge a yes vote on this resolution and yield back the balance of my time.
From New York.
2 minutes to a gentlelady from Nevada, a co-sponsor of this bill and a valuable member of the Foreign Affairs Committee, Ms. Titus.
Gentlelady's recognized.
Thank you. And thank you for yielding. Thank you to the chairman and also to my friend from Florida who sponsored this legislation. I too rise in support of House Resolution 401. It's a resolution urging countries around the world to outlaw the dog and cat meat trade and to recommit to enforcing existing laws against this horrible practice. As you have heard, approximately 30 million dogs and tens of millions of cats are killed annually for human consumption, and many suffer from abuse and cruelty during their lifetime, facing painful deaths at the hands of these horrible meat dealers. We cannot afford to turn a blind eye to the extreme torment that they have to endure. In the United States, we cherish dogs and cats, recognizing their many contributions as service and therapy animals, search and rescue assistants, and police dogs that aid with drug and bomb searches. They provide airport security, are companions to our veterans, and are cherished family pets. As a member of the Congressional Animal Protection Caucus, I'm a proud co-sponsor of this legislation, which enjoyed the support of 150 bipartisan co-sponsors and passed the committee by a voice vote. I've worked hard in Congress to end the dog and cat meat trade, eliminate the use of dog leather, and protect our furry and feathered friends from undue harm and abuse. Hundreds of constituents have written us about this issue, and they want the United States to speak up and set an example. I believe this resolution does just that. So I thank those who are responsible for bringing it, those who have lent their voice in support of it, and I look forward to seeing it pass today. Thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlelady, time's expired. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I'll continue to reserve.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from New York.
I'm prepared to close, and let me say in closing, I'm again grateful to Mr. Hastings and to all the people who have helped elevate this issue. Actually, I have gotten many calls from people who are very, very concerned about this bill and who want to see it passed. I have been a dog lover all my life, had the wonderful time to have dogs, and to me, it's just unfathomable that they are suffering like this in the trade to eat dogs and cats, and it's really just something that's awful. So I'm pleased to support this measure. It's a bipartisan bill, and I yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from California is recognized.
I want to thank Mr. Hastings again for this legislation, Mr. Speaker, and for championing support for the protection of dogs and cats around the world, and I yield back the balance of my time.
I'm sorry. The question is, will the House suspend the rules and agree to House Resolution 401 as amended? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the chair, 2/3 being in the affirmative, the rules are suspended, the resolution is agreed to, and without objection, the motion to reconsider is laid upon the table.